Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George, or all George. So welcome to another market open stream. Bitcoin makes a new high for 2023. And today I'm going to explain why this is just the beginning. And also let's look at what has happened over the weekend, what has happened today, and what will happen later this week. So let's get started. Welcome, guys. We are 1 minute away, maybe less than that, from the market bell. And right now, U.S. market is looking green, sort of, although NASDAQ is still like about even. And there we go. That is the market bell, the best bell in the industry. And I still have not changed the battery in here for like 4 years. Still working. Anyways, that's a sign of good luck. And today, we did get some pretty big news. It's been brewing since the weekend, but now it has solidified. So basically, you guys know about Credit Suisse, right? You guys know that it's been struggling for a while, and this was just reported last week. Credit Suisse is so bad that the National Bank of Switzerland had to give them a $54 billion injection because basically they had no money. They ran out of liquidity, right? So that must have saved them, right? You would figure, but why are they down 56% today? Something's not right. Something's not right. Well, it turns out, yeah, a whole lot of everything is not right with Credit Suisse. So the Swiss National Bank basically went to UBS and said, hey, you're going to have to buy them. So over the weekend, it was reported they're going to buy them for only $1 billion. But now they solidified and said, hey, we're going to buy them for $3.2 billion, which is still not a good dollar amount. That's still pennies on the dollar, especially when you consider Credit Suisse was once worth $90 billion back in 2007. So that is what has happened, okay? But no one seems to think this is a good thing. First of all, forced takeover is not good. The Swiss government is saying, well, no, this is not a bailout by any means. This is just, strengthening our banks, so to speak, right? But no, it's obvious. UBS didn't want to buy them. No one wanted to buy Credit Suisse, but they are too big to fail. Right now, people are noticing that their credit swaps, basically, the chance of their credit swaps or their insurance on defaults actually defaulting is really, really high. It was really high. Well, at least it was high. It's probably lower now because now UBS bought them, right? But it was bad. It was bad. And here's an example. So Saudi National Bank, right? This is the National Bank of Saudi Arabia. They claim they lost $1 billion in Credit Suisse. And this is just the beginning. This is just one bank that mentioned it, right? So there's probably a whole lot of others that have billions upon billions upon billions in Credit Suisse. This is the reason why it's so urgent for them to be bought out and saved rather than them collapsing, okay? Yes. It's bad. It's bad. And if you thought that just because UBS bought them or merged that the drama is over, well, think again. Now, Switzerland is getting ready to put up 260 billion francs for this rescue. Okay, so if you thought that 54 billion that they gave them, right, was enough, and now UBS buying them is enough. No, there's another 260 billion. And francs or dollars are pretty equivalent. So it's close to 260 billion USD too. That's how much they have to put in to save this bank. So this just put things into perspective, right? When one bank goes under, there's so much money that somehow just disappears, and you have to put so much more, exponentially more, just to save them. 260 billion on top of the 50 billion. That's 300 billion right there, right? That's a crazy, crazy amount. So this is why people are turning to Bitcoin, because how could you trust any of these guys, right? Front page of CNBC now talks about First Republic. So let's move on to another bank in the U.S. You remember just last week, the Fed and FDIC, same thing, kind of like the Swiss National Bank. The Fed forced 11 other banks in the U.S. to inject $30 billion into First Republic Bank, because First Republic Bank also selling off. People didn't like what they were seeing. There were lines out the door at the branches, right? This just happened last week, okay? And you know what? It hasn't helped. It's down 21%. It was down 30-something% on Friday. So whenever there's fear, it doesn't matter how much money you inject into them. It just seems like it's never enough. Okay, so 30 billion seems like it's nothing when they're losing this much every single day, right? So First Republic, if they don't do anything, they're going to go under too. Or the Fed is going to do another cash injection, or they're going to force JP Morgan or someone to take them over, or something. Okay, something's going to happen. So this is what's happening right now. You got Credit Suisse, a lot of fear over them. Now in the U.S., you got First Republic Bank, but these are just the tip of the iceberg. I saw this. The banks are getting, the federal central banks are getting very desperate. So now the central banks of the major countries out there, including the U.S., Canada, Britain, Japan, Switzerland, right? They have this thing where they swap money with each other. And normally they do it weekly. Okay, this is something new I learned. You know, I didn't know that this was actually happening, but it makes sense, right? If central banks want to hold currencies from other countries, they have to swap. It's like a credit line between each other. So they're decreasing their auctions from 1 week down to a single day, because basically they fear there's liquidity crisis, that people are going to take out too much money. So now they need to borrow from the other central banks if needed, right? That's how fearful they have become. These are top central banks. These are not regional or private banks. These are central banks like the Fed that are now worried about liquidity, even though they all have infinite money printing machines, right? But that's happening right now. So is it a surprise that people are turning to Bitcoin? No. So that's what's happening right now. Still a lot of distrust in governments, in overspending, in overprinting, in bank runs. You get the picture, right? So there's a lot of stuff happening. And that leads to tomorrow. No, it leads to Wednesday. Because we do have another big decision from our Fed Chair Powell. He will be speaking, right? We will have the FOMC meeting once again. It starts tomorrow, concludes on Wednesday, but they already talked. There was already emergency discussion last week already, right, about this. So everyone's still wondering, what is he going to do? Is he going to raise rates, not raise rates, keep it at zero, right? Right now, it's predicted at 30. No, it's going down. So there seems to be a lot of people think that the Fed will still continue to raise rates, but now do 25 basis points. The last one was 50 basis points. So we're going down to 25, which is good, right? And then you have 28% of people thinking it's zero. I still think I'm clinging on to zero. I may be wrong about that, but I'm clinging on zero. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. First Republic is not the only bank. Obviously, there's been others, SV Bank and Signature and what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank here, but you guys know there was another one, another major one. But SV Bank kind of set things off in the U.S. And then plus, last week I covered about a lot of mid-tier banks also, you know, yelling at the FDIC to cover all deposits. I mean, when you're hearing about these things, they're not good, right? that means banks are fearful. So all these things are no good. So I can't believe that the Fed would dare to be hawkish still, right? They should be in emergency mode trying to figure out what to do. And I read an article that says the FDIC is thinking about raising their insurance limit. This 250,000 limit that jumped up in 2008, they're thinking about pushing that up because they're fearful of bank runs. They may push that up to 400,000, 500,000, $1 million, right? But where's the money coming from? But yeah, but that's why, leading to Bitcoin, that's why you have a lot of people thinking great things are going to come to Bitcoin in short order. And when I say short, 90 days, $1 million in 90 days. This is from the former CTO of Coinbase, who thinks that all banks are about to collapse and everyone's going to turn to Bitcoin. I'm not so sure that this is going to happen in 90 days. And I've seen people comment in live chat, like, if this really happens, we have bigger problems on our hands, because that means the entire financial industry has crashed and burned. And yeah, we'll probably have bigger problems to worry about. But it's nice to dream about. Can Bitcoin hit 1 million someday? Yes. In 90 days? Probably not. But how high can Bitcoin go in 90 days? Well, the sky is the limit. There's a lot of charts that show that, hey, we're following previous patterns, we're breaking out, we're making new levels, right? And who knows? Who knows where Bitcoin will be in 90 days? Here's an example of such chart. This is a MACD on the monthly scale, right? You can see once Bitcoin flipped to the green, this happened in 2015 and it happened in 2019. I mean, look at what has followed afterwards, right? And we're about to flip into green, guys. So this is happening. This is on a monthly scale. These kind of crossovers do not happen very often. Over the last 10 years has only happened 3 times, and this is about to be the 4th, right? So not that much. Here's another one. This is like the EMA ribbon, which basically shows, okay, last time this happened, we were coming off from bottom in 2019. What happened? We went from 3,000 all the way up to 14,000. So, right? So now we're coming up from 15,000, or we go hit 30, 40, 50,000 as our local peak. It could happen. It could happen. We got a lot of good stuff. And of course, like fundamentals, like percent last active 5 years, all-time high, closing in at 29%, right? And I've showed this for 1 year, for 3 years, or 2 years, 3 year, now 5 year, 10 year. They're all at all-time high, right? It's no wonder that Bitcoin is gaining strength, and despite the horrible macro conditions, despite bank run fears, despite everything else, it's doing pretty well indeed. And something else that's doing pretty well is Stacks, which is a project that is basically a layer 2 smart contracts platform for Bitcoin. They're up significantly recently, and that's because they're upgrading themselves to just make it easier to program and more efficient to program, right? Bitcoin, besides being the greatest store of value we have, having the most decentralized and secure network on the planet, there's a lot of projects that want to build on top of Bitcoin. And that's what Stacks helps with and provides, basically a platform for smart contracts to operate on top of Bitcoin, right? And there are a lot of projects that's coming on board. So Bitcoin also, besides, and I forgot, Medium Exchange, which is growing through apps like Strike app and Cash app and stuff like that. It's early, but it also wants to be a smart contracts platform, right? That's what Stacks helps with. So they have been moving up quite a lot recently, mostly because enthusiasm over Bitcoin, but also because they just upgraded, which improves stacking. There's new clarity functions, better bridges, decentralized mining, and Bitcoin native assets. Interesting. Tokenization on top of Bitcoin. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. And as for a few other crypto out there, EOS is now getting ready for their new EVM. Okay. I thought EOS, I don't know what happened. They were one of the top projects back in 2017. They raised $1 billion through the ICO, mostly led by this other group called Block One, and they are no longer part of the project. They always had a lot of controversy, and they basically squandered the last 5 years. But EOS was supposed to, they were supposed to rebrand themselves to be called Antelope. I'm glad they stopped because they haven't rebranded. I thought that was a horrible name. But anyways, they're building out EVM, so we'll see how they do. But they're kind of forgotten at this point. But someone that isn't forgotten is Arbitrum. And you know what? They're about to airdrop their tokens in 3 days. But major exchanges have already listed Arbitrum token ahead of time, right? But in 3 days, March 23rd, basically when Powell is going to be speaking, that's when, if you're qualified, you'll just see some free ARB tokens in your wallets. Who doesn't like that, right? So that's all pretty good. As for entire market cap, it's slightly up. We're still, unfortunately, we came down a little bit. But this morning, we did breach a new high of 28.6, okay, which is very, very positive. Last night, for some reason, maybe some whale games or something, Bitcoin dipped down to 27.2, and then you could see this morning, boom, right back up. Again, probably because all this talk about more bailouts with Credit Suisse and how disastrous that is. You got First Republic Bank that's still not looking very good, and who knows what other banks may go under or need a bailout later this week, right? It's really just the beginning. 17 billion wipeout of Credit Suisse bondholders have not gone down well in Europe. Well, when 17 billion gets wiped out, of course, that's not going to go down well anywhere, not just in Europe. So this Credit Suisse situation is getting worse and worse. But that's why we have Bitcoin. All right, let's do some Q&A. Scrolling up, Skipping Stones, good morning. Margarita says, my first time buying Bitcoin, just watching this channel and closing my eyes and ears on other channels. Well, welcome, and congratulations. Let's see here. Tuesday's Dragonfire. Okay, appreciate that sticker. Roulette wheel, appreciate that. All right, so let's see. I think this week, bank fears will continue on, but I think this is going to be absolutely huge, right? FOMC meeting. We'll see what Powell and the Board of Governors do. Are they going to decide that their intervention, their new loan program, is enough to keep the banks afloat and they will continue to battle inflation by raising rates. Maybe. You know, our recent CPI reading did show inflation is still going down. It accelerated from the previous month, right? So obviously, what has been done is working. Does he need to be more aggressive? That's the question. You know, there's nothing wrong with just stopping the rate hike and letting things take course and stabilize the banks before moving forward, right? But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I think he needs to tread carefully. It's not an easy decision. Do you think alts will pump next week due to Matic and ETH upgrades coming 1 to 3 weeks? Not necessarily, no. A lot of upgrades come and go without any significant rallies. So, no, I think right now it's just the money being put into Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the anti-bank right now. That's honestly what's happening, right? When you have bank fears, even with these large cash injections and they don't seem to be working, you know, people are turning to something else. So they're going to turn to Bitcoin. So we'll see. It doesn't mean that they won't pump. You know, alts have been dragging for a while. And you can see Bitcoin dominance is now up to 46%. It's definitely coming up. It was just at 45% last week, 44 before, 42 during our lows, right? But it's coming up because, you know, people are putting money into it. Yeah, and sometimes, you know, when Bitcoin really pumps, it sucks the liquidity out of the others. I have seen it before many times. When Bitcoin goes on a crazy pump, I mean, right now it's like up 2%, 3%, 5%, even 23% for a week. You know, these are not considered crazy pumps. We have seen days where Bitcoin's up 20% in a day, you know, 15%, 18%, 25% in a day. And during those days, because so much money goes into Bitcoin, you see minus like 5 or minus 10% on all the altcoins. That has happened many times before. So sometimes Bitcoin just drains the liquidity too. Lazaro, once ETH does a Shanghai update, will we unlock the token so little DAO becomes irrelevant when it comes to staking and staking? Explain. No, it doesn't become irrelevant. You still have liquid staking. When you stake into ETH, it's locked in. You're getting the interest, right? But when you do liquid staking, you get synthetic ETH that you can use while you're making rewards, and you can use that for other purposes like DeFi. So, no, it doesn't make someone like Lido irrelevant. Can you talk about OMG being delisted from Coinbase? Do you think they could reach all that? I gave up on OMG a long time ago. They're supposed to be a scaling solution, but they became too corporate. Sold themselves out a couple times, renamed themselves a couple times. I just don't really care for OMG. Stefan just answered you. George, let's say Bitcoin touches 250K. Can you organize a fan day event? What do you mean by that? I do want to organize, you know, a conference. I want to have my own conference. I'll probably plan for, you know, in 2024. I think 2023 may be too early for that. But 2024, I definitely want to plan a conference. You know, a lot of you guys have bought my I Am George NFTs. You know, going to incorporate that into the conference and more. There's something else I'm working on this year. Could be a fancy party that NFT holders can redeem and join the party. So we'll see. But yeah, the higher Bitcoin goes, the more conferences and slash aka parties will happen. What if the Middle East starts taking Bitcoin for oil? That would be fantastic. I think they probably started already because of Russia. I know some Middle East countries are now taking other currencies besides USD, which is bad. The US does not want to see that happen, but it started happening. And Russia did say that they're open to using crypto. So maybe it has happened already. Anthony, that would make a good topic, except I don't think anyone cares about Justin Sun or Tron. So no one cares. Curry Body, I think Rally's dead. I think they just self-close themselves. A mirror protocol, not a fan of. It's to create synthetic tokens. Come to Dallas for GeorgeCon. I don't know. I still think I want to have it in Vegas. So I think Vegas would be good. Vegas or I don't know, or Miami. Although there's too many crypto events in Miami, so I don't know. What do you think about the current Land Cruiser market? To be honest, I don't really pay attention to the Land Cruiser market, but Land Cruisers hold up their value very well, so I'm assuming it's the same. I don't know what else you're looking for. Coinbase down a little bit. Coinbase was deep in the green this morning. It might still flip. I think right now people are a little afraid. Dow is rallying. NASDAQ not so good today. But it could certainly reverse. Everyone seems to like Vegas. Vegas is like the place to go to, right? But you don't have a lot of conferences there, or at least crypto conferences. All the crypto conferences is either in what? Well, the two that I know of is Miami for Bitcoin and Consensus in what, Austin, Texas. But that's it. I don't really hear much about other conferences. Do we have a new president candidate that is known as pro-crypto? You know, here's the thing. If we have any president, like new candidates for president, like I know Andrew Yang was very, very big on Bitcoin and crypto. I don't know if they can actually have those same thoughts as president because, you know, you have to support your own government, right? You have to support the Fed. You have to support the Treasury and, you know, everything else that is part of the U.S. government. You can't become president and say, hey, let's abolish the Fed and let's go turn to a Bitcoin standard. That can't happen, right? So it's good to have a pro candidate or pro president, but, you know, what would that lead to? I don't know. I feel like you could host from the middle of craps table. I stayed away from crafts for a few weeks now. You know, I was getting too addicted. First Republic Bank coming up a little bit from its bottom, but that's what it looks like for 5 days. That's what it looks like in a month. So yeah, they're not looking. That's what it looks like in 3 months. Wow. They peaked at 147 at the beginning of February, and now they're at $20. So that's horrible. 1 year, 5 years, they peaked at 219 back in 2021. So they're more than 90% down from their peak. First Republic Bank is pretty big. I think I read they have like 200 billion in assets. So they're not one of the giants, but they're not a small bank either. They are actually really big. DNAS, 50% portfolio Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Riot Platform, Argo Blockchain, doing well. Do you think I should hold? Well, I mean, they're all dependent on whether Bitcoin does well. That's the problem. If you go all of these, they're basically 100% correlated to Bitcoin, right? So if Bitcoin does well, they will all do well. If Bitcoin does not do well, they all do bad. So just kind of think about that. Got a friend missing 271 ETH that are showing as assets in the Coinbase wallet, but cannot move them to the Coinbase app. Probably because he didn't save enough ETH. If you try to move it all, it will error it out because you need to save some ETH on the wallet to pay for gas fees. I'm assuming that's the problem. Most people don't realize that. And why is he trying to sell 271 ETH in the first place? Thoughts on, yeah, no, I'm not going to talk about that. Too bad we couldn't have a little more excitement during the stream. Bitcoin peaked at 28.6 this morning. Right now, it's trying to break above 28 again, which will be fantastic. But we did form a new high, and I think this is only the beginning. Only the beginning. The FOMC meeting, I think overall will be pretty positive, and I think we're going to see more banking problems, woes. We're going to see more of it. But it's very, very good to see Bitcoin at 28 once again. And who knows? 29, 30 by the end of this week. You know, this gap right here, this 28, 7, and 31. I mean, I don't anticipate we'll be at 31 by the end of the week, but we have seen crazier runs before. Shata Kimrides. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but appreciate that big super sticker. No way it will hit 30K soon. I mean, we were at 28.6. That's less than 10%. Is it really outrageous you think it hits 30K soon? I don't think so. I don't think so. By the end of this week, if we see slow and steady gains, 2-3% every day, by the end of this week, can we be at 30K? It's certainly possible. Certainly possible. But first things first, we got to break through this 28.8 mark. That's a pretty heavy, I would say, resistance. It was a support back in May and June of 2022. You see we're pressing right against it, right? Once we break through, that is, I think we're going to stick in this channel for a little bit, 31.6 and 28.8. But we're right there. We're very, very close to breaking that. It's 271,000 ETH converted from, okay. Still, there's nothing preventing him from taking it out other than leaving some ETH in there for gas fees. That's it. You're not on Twitch anymore? No. It was pointless because there's no one on Twitch that watches crypto, so there's no point. Let's see. What's your opinion on Clive Thomas saying if CBDCs become mainstream, then you will only be able to convert 30K of old currency to new currency? How likely is it? 0%. 0%. That would be utterly ridiculous. If you can't convert more of your old 30K currency. Okay. That is so ridiculous. I don't even want to ever hear that again. That pump has a bank capitulation kind of feel to it. Well, yes and no. Yes, I'm not sure banks itself are putting money into Bitcoin as a last resort, but there are definitely a lot of people that are sick of it, sick of hearing about bank runs and banks need to bail out, and ultimately it's going to cost the taxpayers more money, and more printing and more inflation, and, they should know better, yeah, people are just sick of it. That's why they want to put money somewhere else. It's really not that hard to comprehend. Your thoughts on Alpha Zero? It's not pumping. No, it's not a project I track, not a project I talk about, and I'm not surprised it's not pumping. I'm sorry. We're in a ridiculous universe, George. I don't know if we're in a ridiculous universe, but I saw the new Shazam movie with my kids. They loved it, and I thought it was a pretty good movie overall, but I'm sad to hear about DCU just rebooting, restarting. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's almost pointless to watch a DCU movie because it's all going to be reboot, right? The new Flash movie does look like it looks pretty good, but they're just rebooting everything. So I don't know what's going on there. I know that's random, but I'm a big, comic book movie type guy. I enjoy them, but I don't know what's going to happen there. Someone said change the chart to 15 minutes. Okay. from a 15-minute perspective, looks great. Looks like it's about to turn. But regardless, 28,000 is good considering we were below 27,000 a week ago and below 24,000 a week ago. I mean, yesterday, a lot of you guys watched my weekly recap videos. I mean, in the weekly recap video, you could clearly see Bitcoin was at like 24,000. So we went up more than 10% within a matter of days, right? So we are definitely moving upwards, and it's fantastic. Fantastic. Why reboot when they could use an alternate universe? And they are, but I don't know. They're still rebooting because they got a new director, and a new director doesn't like the old direction, I guess. Cocaine Bear FAF. I'm not sure what FAF stands for, but that is a movie I will never watch because I think it's so ridiculous. It's not even entertaining anymore. Do you think a Ripple settlement will happen this month? I don't know. It could happen anytime. I would love to see Gary lose. Gary could be losing some major lawsuits in the near future. So it could happen. It could happen next week. It could happen this week. We don't know, right? The SEC tried to drag this long enough, and the courts are getting sick of it. So even the judges are saying no more delays. We're going through, right? All right, guys, let's call it a stream today. More fears about banks. It's not unusual these days, and there will be more. There will be a lot more. So we'll see what happens. And this week, I think there's a lot riding on the FOMC meeting coming up on Wednesday. But in the meantime, Bitcoin is still showing strength. It formed a new high earlier today for 2023. Will it continue? I believe so. All right. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.